Well, warm welcomes and welcome to the last Filecoin Plus community call taking place December 16th, 2025. On this agenda, the main points that we're going to hit is check in on the schedule for 2026, make sure that aligns, get feedback, and show you where to go to check the dates. Then check in on tooling. So we had an update major to the datacapstats.io. We talked a little bit about the overview last week. Marta from the Fil team joined us and gave us a live walkthrough demo. Just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of where to go to get the weights, and so we'll be showing that, as well as checking in on the SLAs from the last call as well. This is a big change. Wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to kind of discuss and hear, so we kind of held some of this again just to make sure it's on your radar. For the DataCap refresh, stressing the point that during the holiday break, refreshes will continue to be processed. So we have a calendar, checking in, and then look at the 7 or so applications that are currently outstanding. No flags, but here if you have any questions on them. Then checking in, what does it look like to apply as an allocator in 2026 as a new organization? What changed in the process? And then just letting you know what we're seeing on our sides. And then last, just keeping you aware of broader ecosystem developments with the Filecoin on-chain cloud and what the Constellation team is doing and the work they're spearheading with that. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat and we'll be happy to address as we go through, or raise a hand and we'll come back. So for scheduled check-ins off the bat, this is the last call taking place in 2025 after the one this evening or this morning, depending on your time zone. Then we'll be moving to a new schedule for 2026. So for that schedule, we are looking at your input. We ran these through the dates of major US holidays, major UK holidays, Chinese holidays, but things fall through the cracks. So if you look at this schedule and this falls on a major holiday where most of your team will be out of the office and you'd like to maybe participate or flag these dates, please let us know. There's an issue 478. You can leave us a comment there on this call or even in Slack. I'm just trying to make these calls as conducive as possible with time zones and dates so they don't come back. And then on that, you might be curious, okay, well, what's going to go on right now with the current holiday that's coming up next week in the States? So as you can see, the dates that are highlighted in red, those are the key major holiday states celebrated here. So we have a action plan. We will be processing the DataCap refresh during this time period. So if you submit, you will see progress. But during the 24th through 27th, and again on the 31st and 1st, expect a little bit of delay in comms. The teams will be out. We'll have firefighting coverage going on to make sure that there's no new issues. You have someone to respond. But during those dates, you'll see a delay in comms. But DataCap refresh will continue to go back out. All right, hey, another update coming we're kind of happy to talk about. So what this is we're calling it a newsletter, but it's like a real detailed summary in text format from these calls. And the issue is not everyone's able to attend these calls. Sometimes the language can be a translation barrier for the spoken conversation. So what we're looking to do is take some of the main feedback or main topics of this call, boil them down into really short distilled summaries, and then post those summaries in Slack and GitHub where they can be easily translated to any language. And we'll take care of that too on our end with one round of the translation to make it easier to digest these topics and keep a running list. So really the goal is if English isn't your primary language, but you want to stay updated or get this, currently the only option you have right now is the translation app in Slack or watching this video with subtitles on. So we're hoping to expand that to make it a little bit easier. All right. Hey, tooling. So on the call last week, we highlighted a new feature that's coming in, and that's translation in Slack. We're really excited about this, and a big props to the team at Fiddle who figured this out and kind of ran this down for us to use. So you look at the top, that's just kind of how to turn it on. You can take any message that's posted in Slack in the public channels or anything. And if you click the three dots in the top right, then connect to apps, you'll see that there's a translate this message using the translate. So great success. It was used so much that we used up all the credits for it. So there was a submission for additional credits that should be processed shortly. And so that's why if you get this message, Mike, I think you flagged this in one of the Slack channels. This is why we're getting that message. It was such an overwhelming demand on having that it really just showed us this is something to lean into. And again, that's kind of the driving force behind the written newsletter that's also, again, translated to make it easy as possible. And on the last call, we had a really detailed demo of how DataCap stats is kind of giving more scores, more metrics, and really, really detailed breakdowns. And one of those, again, was the allocator leaderboard, which has a score for each allocator pathway for the organization. We'd still like to get feedback on these metrics. And so when you think about what these metrics are, if you look at this screenshot, when you go to DataCap stats and when you click on the allocator leaderboard and you select your pathway or any other pathway, you're then taken to this score page. And this score is calculated from each of these categories as we learned about last week. But the big question that we're looking for feedback on is each one of these categories will have an explanation of how the weight was calculated. And so what we're looking for, and again, to communicate this, is this right? As you run your businesses, as you run your pathways, is it okay to say the percentage of IPNI and data cap? Is it okay to have the total data cap? Do these numbers make sense? Or are we looking at things that we should take into account in a different way? So very much seeking feedback on these. If you have thoughts, if you have input, please share them directly with Fiddle, with the governance and Slack on these calls, and let us know if we should be modifying any of this as we go through. All right. We've kept roadmap on our agenda for the past few cycles, and I think we'll continue to do so because as we move into Q1 2026, we're really looking at like, what does that experience look like as far as SLAs, and then moving to this on-chain payment model. So what you can expect to see in 2021 is more things like pulse surveys, what's kind of motivating you in the community, what are some of the friction points and what's working well. So you'll see more of that. You already see the SLAs coming up with how we're collecting this feedback on the scores for how we're making the program go forward. So just kind of keeping this front of mind for everybody as far as like, what is the roadmap that we're moving forward to in 2025 and 2026. So again, on the last call, we kind of went to these in real detail and broke them down. I just wanted to keep these on the zeitgeist and top of mind. Then in 2025, the 5 priorities we were really looking to streamline were the verification of these storage providers and the deals that are going, and then making sure that those deals that were completed actually had downloadability to them. And then what are we doing with the unused data cap? If it gets distributed to the wrong client, how can you as an allocator withdraw that? And then if we see an allocator who has made no transactions, how do we sunset them safely and then move forward? And then also looking at the allocators being a steward for the program. So how do we give those allocators awareness of what they should be looking at for the deals and good data and really looking forward for it? Going forward to 2026, this is kind of what we're looking at is from a big macro. And again, we had this on the last slide and the last call, but just to kind of make sure that everyone is just kind of aware, putting this on too, just to kind of see it, we're really looking at on-chain deal payments. So if you look at smart contract usage, you're going to see a lot more of that in the tooling, a lot more of that in like making it easier for you with options that you have as an allocator to kind of control your data cap and control your business as you run. And then the second category with the service categories is, yeah, making sure that the people that are in this program are really helping driving it forward. They're stewards to the clients and the storage providers. They're making sure that the data is accessible, that it has retrievability to it. And so the allocators are the one that are making sure that that's running well. And to do that, we're really looking at phase 3, which is moving to paid storage deals. So if you take a look at the requirements, it's proof of payment. It's using that payment chain that we have going forward. So getting you ready, getting you understanding of how the tooling works to do this, how your business model works to do this, and then kind of opening up this discussion as the tooling moves this way. So if you have any questions, any discussions, any feedback, love to hear it. Please let us know in chat, raise a hand, or we always have these on the discussion boards. All right, hey, DataCap Refresh. So 2 things to celebrate. One, we'll celebrate everybody who's been in the process. Well done, well done. You can see that there's 2 public open data sets, Revelation and YMHB. Revelation, you're set for a doubling of 10, and YHB, couple of questions. So you look at a 2.5 throttle. If you're on the call or you want to discuss, we can kind of get into some of the questions that came about the retrievability and the documentation that went on this throttle. But Amin left some really good feedback on what you can do with this next data cap stats to kind of bring that up. And then the enterprise ones that are being refreshed all across the board are CFDA, SWST, HLM Miner, and GOME Fil Plus. So those should all see a top off. If you look at the metric on the bottom, we had this on the last slide, but just like to kind of continue to hold this here because this was a real big goal of ours of 2025. If you were around the program around Q2, you might have remembered the pain of submitting a DataCap application refresh and then having to wait up to 30 days for that to work its way through the system of all the checks and audits. We've been able to streamline that process and get that down to sub 10 days. And even that 10 days is usually just waiting for the back and forth between the allocator organization and either the community or admin to give the feedback. So this progress should feel very natural. It should feel fast. If it doesn't, if you still feel like there's friction in this or it's difficult to navigate or your questions aren't answered, please let us know. The best place could be either in Slack or in the agenda for these calls that's posted to GitHub, and we'll make sure that we could build in that feedback, get people that are involved to speak to it. So again, props to admin and the whole refresh process for getting that under 10 days. That's amazing. And I think I've kept this slide on the deck for probably the last 10 calls, just because I think it's so vital whenever we have a question. It's nice to be able to come back to it. Again, if you're an allocator pathway, these were just kind of the basics that you should have on your radar for everything that you're doing in your operation. So you set up a README and you're sticking to it as far as what you said you would do in your application. And then your clients can see that when they come to you to request data cap. And it's looking at the replica maximization, it's providing a detailed accounting of how this deal came about. It's keeping a standard allocation schedule, making sure that the geographic regions are covered and that there's no activity, then we're going to reach out for like, hey, is this something that you still want to be involved in? So again, if you have questions about, hey, is this allowed or this client's doing something, please float these early. Waiting until the refresh audit is taking place leaves a lot on the table because there's not a lot of options once all the data cap has been distributed if it was done within zero guidelines of what you or the program said you would do. So if you have questions, please reach out. Love to work with you. And then future applications, you might have noticed that if you go to the error table, you'll get a prompt that says, hey, we're accepting applications for 2026. There's no longer this time-bounded open enrollment period like we've had in the past. Thanks to all the tooling developments, thanks to all the updates for governance, we're now at a place where if an organization comes to the program and says they'd like to get involved, they can come to the error table. But what we do see is that we still have 100 plus manual pathways that are taking clients, manually reviewing it, and manually putting it on. So with those 100, there's not a lot of need to add 110 or 200 or 500 manual pathways that are all essentially doing the same thing. So if you are an organization that would like to have a client have data stored, you could direct those clients to an existing allocator. It's not like you have to onboard. The allocators and the organizations that we're really looking at are folks that are adding value to the network in some kind of new way. We have a lot of experimental pathways. We have a lot of automated pathways. We're looking for a lot more of that kind of development, incorporating newness, smart contracts, paid on-chain deals versus just an organization that does not have a lot of community standing. We haven't seen them active in other programs. Come on board, submit an application. So if you would like to submit, what we're asking any new organization to do is tell us a little bit about why your pathway would add value, different from the other pathways that have come on board. It could be a real short 2-paragraph, 1 paragraph. It could be posted in Slack. It could be sent to a DM and shared. But essentially looking at, if you want to join the program, what is it that you're bringing of value to this organization? So it's open, but we're looking for organizations that are adding to that value in the system. And then last, just some wider ecosystem updates so you're just kind of fully aware, almost like general ed in college. Hey, the on-chain cloud, what a cool system this has been set up. So with the on-chain cloud, we talked about this briefly. This allows builders, payments, logic. It's all set up. So if you're looking to get started, all you have to do is just come to start building. You can see all the development guides that go along with it, as well as the source code, all of the videos from the announcement at FDS 7 talking about who's using it, why they're using it, kind of the benefits of the program. So if you're a builder, if you're looking to get involved with this Filecoin on-chain is live now. All's operational at filecoin.cloud. It's also in the slide deck. Great way if you're looking to build payments, data, and new systems. Good tooling that's now available for us all. And lastly was the consolation work taking place by the governance team. And this is really exciting because in the past, there's always been a lot of questions and confusion about what really drives change and what really drives the governance, not just in Fil Plus, but for the wider Filecoin ecosystem. So this project is being heralded as like, how do we strengthen the communications and governance for governance? So they gave a real detailed talk. It's linked here in the slide deck during FDS about what are they looking at as far as collecting input? Who gets a stake? And how is that vote and input collected and made sure that everyone has a chance to kind of see it and move forward? So if you look at this slide deck that they took from their talk, they've really broken it down by like what's the economic impact, the operational, the protocol, and the support, and then really strategically broke it out over month by month planning. So as this starts to get more development, as this starts to get more updates, we'll keep you in the loop of like what is taking place. I know for Filecoin Plus, we usually submit a proposal in GitHub. We ask for feedback from the community. A good example was the 8 replica cap. We made a proposal. We left it open for about a month, let anybody weigh in and give thoughts if having more than 8 was necessary. Once we didn't get enough, or we did get enough, we said, all right, this is time to move forward. So what Constellation is doing is looking at like, what is the standard? Is it what Fil Plus is doing? Is it what the whole program is doing? And then how do we have that consensus so everybody feels like they have a say or can track what's taking place? So look for updates from the Constellation program, really driving it forward as far as updates go. And with that, I'll turn it over. I know we have a couple folks on the call. We're happy to dive into anything on your mind. Floor is yours. Well, sometimes it can be like that. This is one of those periods where I think everybody is just in like kind of hunker down mode, get this across the finish line. I think I would just rehang this slide again that during the period of the 24th through around the 26th and the 30th through the 1st, we'll still be for processing DataCap, we'll still be at keys, but very reduced, like firefighting. So you might see delayed comms during this period. But if you need us for any reason, feel free to reach out in Slack or in the post. We'll be able to help you. All right, I'll make one last call for anybody on the line has any topics, anything top of mind. Floor is yours. All right, well, I'll get this conversation translated and we'll incorporate that into the newsletter. And you'll see the written updates and YouTube videos coming shortly. To everyone on the call or watching, thanks for your time. Wish you all the best. Cheers.